Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always, told out of voice at radio. So today, I am back to tell you I was right. Recently, I told you how I was wrong about Urshifu VMAX, the Single Strike one, and how that is a way better deck than I was giving it credit for. Then I had to come back and tell you that I was wrong about Corviknight VMAX, and how that is a way better deck than I gave it credit for. So since I was wrong about those two VMAXs, and I was pretty honest and upfront about it, I think it is fair for me to just boast a tiny bit that I was totally right about Victini VMAX. I told you Victini VMAX was my favourite of all of these VMAXs coming out of what is going to be battle styles over here. I told you I thought it was amazing, and I feel thoroughly vindicated, ladies and gentlemen, because it's gone and won at the very first opportunity. How cool! So, Victini VMAX then. Now, I was also right, although I'm not the only one here, about the fact that the Victini from Sword and Shield is a better Victini V. It is interesting, and again, this was an easy prediction to make, because when Victini VMAX got revealed, the old Victini, the one that we got in Sword and Shield, went and got bought out in Japan pretty much immediately. Interesting to note that that did come in a V-Starter deck, so it is slightly rarer in Japan, which does help to explain it. 1 energy, attach free fire from your discard party or Pokemon in any way you like. You'll use it sometimes, but mostly it's 2 energy, 30 damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. Cool. This can add up pretty quickly. Also, makes your opponent either not attach energy or punishes them for attaching energy. Either way, I'm fine with it. There is 1 copy of the newer Victini here for the attack, which for 2 energy does 120, and you discard them all. I'll be honest with you, it's not an amazing attack because you lose the energy and then you've got to reset, etc. But I will say that it's still useful because it's turn 1, welder, 120. There will be games where that does actually come in super handy. So there's a 3-1 split. 1 of these that can get you cheeky wins and KOs, and 3 of the one which is generally just better. Nice. But it really is all about the Victini VMAX here. Now, weirdly enough, for a single energy, it's got the same attack as the good Victini V. Exactly. Attach free fire energy from your discard party or Pokemon in any way you like. If you're using that on the VMAX rather than the V, I'm going to want an explanation. But then for just 2 energy, 100 damage, or to a Pokemon V, 220. So you use Welder to attach 2 energy, and then you're just hitting 220 to any Pokemon V, which basically KOs any Pokemon V. That is a little bit ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. That is a little bit awesome. And that's generally what we're doing with Victini VMAX here. We are basically just playing it as a massive counter to Pokemon Vs. And against Pokemon V, Victini is going to absolutely clean up. But what if you're not facing off against Pokemon V? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's fire. So we've got a whole bunch of tricks. We've got Reshiram and Charizard. Now, Reshiram and Charizard's got a whole bunch of different attacks. We've got Outrage, which for 2 energy does 30 damage plus as much as is on it. If they don't one-hit KO, you hit them back harder. For 4 energy, you do 230 to anything Pokemon V or otherwise. And for 3 energy, you do 200. 6 energy, 300, going through any effects on the defending Pokemon. So, it's Reshiram and Charizard. It's doing what it's always done. We've then got Heatran. Now, this is generally going to be your GX attack of choice here. When you move to the active, you can move the energy over, and then free energy 130, which against single prize decks is probably better than Victini VMAX. But really, it's about Hot Burn GX. 50 damage for each fire energy attached to it. So when you've got enough fire energy on the field, you move Heatran to the active, you move a whole bunch of energy over there, and then you just smash and get a big one-hit KO on anything. Certainly against tag teams, this would be a pretty good attack. We've then got 1 copy of Cramorant V. Well, of course we do. It's a fire deck. They all play Cramorant V. For free energy, bearing in mind Welder, you do 160 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, hopefully getting a cheeky KO on a Dedenne. We do also have an emergency attack that will search out any 2 cards, but if you use that, something's probably gone wrong. Oh yeah, and then we've got one Talonite V. I love Talonite V. Now, Talonite V has got 2 attacks, and the first attack, you've actually got one that you can use turn 1 going first. Discard your hand, draw 6 cards. No, it's not amazing, and you're not always going to want to discard your hand, etc., but it actually gives you a turn 1 going first attack that most decks don't have. It gives you extra consistency, and unless you've got cards in your hand you really want to protect, maybe if you've got multiple Welder and VMAXs and all of that, this is just going to make your deck faster and more consistent. Oh yeah, and then you do for free energy 160 damage. And it's got free retreat, incidentally, as well. This is one of the reasons I don't love the new Victini, because if I can Welder and then attach a third energy, I'm doing 160 with Talonflame rather than doing 120 with Victini, so I would rather do the 160 with Talonflame, if I'm honest with you. But Pokemon like Talonflame and Heatran and Reshiram and Charizard, they are going to be what you're using against single prize decks and against VMAXs and all of that, where Victini V can't come in. And then, of course, we got the usual support Pokemon. We've got 2 Dedenne, discard your hand, draw 6 cards. We've got 1 Crobat, draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand, both when you play them to the bench. And then another Pokemon that has a great ability when you play it to the bench. We've got Eldegoss, which puts a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. And honestly, a lot of the time it's going to be Welder, or it's going to be Boss's Orders. Now, in terms of energy, obviously we're talking largely fire energy here because of the whole Welder thing, etc. But we do actually see a couple copies of Capture Energy, which is becoming more and more common over in Japan at the moment. And the reason is really rather simple. You need to get your Victini VMAX. They are evolved Pokemon, which means they need to be down for a turn before you can evolve them. So being able to use Capture Energy to search out the V so you can VMAX it next turn, pretty gosh darned important thing. Now, in terms of trainers, I've mentioned Welder many times. You attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon and draw 3 cards. It's absolutely amazing, and it's the engine that drives fire decks. We need this. Outside of that, we got a full 4 copies of Boss's Orders, drags a Pokemon from the bench into the active, and this shouldn't surprise you. Victini is great at hunting down Pokemon V, not so good against other Pokemon. But your opponent is probably going to be playing stuff like Crobat, or they're going to have Pokemon V on the bench that won't come active until they VMAXed, etc. So as soon as you've got 2 energy on a Victini, you can start using Boss's Orders to drag stuff active. And because Victini doesn't discard the energy when you attack, you are going to have more chance to Boss's Orders than you usually do in fire decks. You're not discarding the energy, you've got enough HP that you should be able to take an attack, whereas a lot of fire decks really will end up using Welder every single turn. Victini maybe not, and it opens up Boss's Orders more, hence the full 4 copies. And then 3 copies of Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Again, as good as Welder is, there will be a bunch of games here where you get the energy on Reshiram and Charizard, or you get the energy on Victini, and then you don't need to Welder for a turn or 2, so stuff like Professor's Research comes in huge. Outside of that, we got 4 Quick Ball to search out our basics, it's great. 1 Cherish Ball to search out GXs. And between Heatran, Reshiram and Charizard, Dedenne, you've got a few worth getting here. And then 3 Pokemon Communication, which swaps a Pokemon in your hand for a Pokemon in your deck. You need your evolved Pokemon, well, Victini VMAX really. This will do it nicely. 4 copies of Switch because it's a bit of a box deck, which means you're going to be mucking around with different attackers. Switch to get the right one in the active can be huge. Our stadium of choice here is Giant Half. Lets you discard a card from your hand to search your deck for a couple of fire energy. And then we got 1 Fire Crystal to grab free energy from your discard, put it into your hand. Less aggressive because of a slightly lower reliance on Welder, because of high HP and not discarding as much energy. We've got a reset stamp, forces your opponent to shuffle the hand into their deck and draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. Great near the end game to slow your opponent down. We got a single copy of Air Balloon, reduces your retreat cost by 2. Like I've said about the whole switching thing, it's pretty important. 1 copy of Tool Scrapper to get rid of your opponent's tools. And 1 copy of that new fan card. Well, I mean, specifically, Fan of Waves. Fan of Waves is just Enhanced Hammer. It just discards a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's an item card. Gets rid of special energy. One thing that's really important to point out here, although it is a Rapid Strike card, that just means that it's got the designation. It doesn't have to be in a Rapid Strike deck. Also, it doesn't discard it. It puts it on the bottom of their deck, so it's a slightly weaker Enhanced Hammer. But generally here, you're using it to get rid of either Coating Metal Energy, which gets rid of weakness of Metal Pokemon, or Weakness Guard Energy, which gets rid of weakness of any Pokemon, but it's generally going to be Metal or Grass. Yeah, you're hitting a really good weakness here. So a lot of people are going to try and protect against that. So you need to protect against their protection, which means you need to play a Fan of Waves here. It's kind of necessary. And that's Victini VMAX. And I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I adore this deck. Victini VMAX is the one that really stokes my interest, or one of the three really, from what is going to be our battle styles. And I think it looks awesome. And I feel, even though I know this just won a little tournament, blah, 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 I feel extremely strongly that Victini VMAX is going to end up being a very good deck going forward. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.